Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chiefs Digest Live Q&A on Tuesday night with Matt. Matt Derrick. I will be joined later by our good friend Nick Jacobs. Appreciate everybody coming in and joining us tonight. I was going to say I'm doing a little bit different tonight. I'm kind of testing around with things, not trying to explain how the sausage gets made, but let's just think everything's a little bit easier if everything is over on YouTube. So I'm trying a little experiment tonight. We are on Facebook live tonight, so you can see the videos on Facebook, but I'm not on X/Twitter. So I'm kind of experimenting with this a little bit. We'll see how it goes, but just still trying to figure out everything with the channel and how to best do things. So if you normally watch on Twitter, I hope you found us and are coming over here and checking everything out tonight. Hopefully everybody is safe. I know there have been some tornado warnings in the area over on the Kansas side near Topeka and Lawrence. So hopefully everybody is staying safe tonight. Stay home, listen to and watch the podcast here and the Q&A. So that sounds like a good plan to me. It's what I'll be doing. Hopefully there's no big tornado warnings for where I am and have to run for cover or anything. I grew up in the Ozarks in Tornado Alley, so even if there were, I might just stick around. Yeah, you never know. Try to be tough and brave, but tornadoes are nothing to be messy with. I mean, you gotta. In my house, we haven't been a direct hit, but our neighborhood has been hit by a tornado, and we lost like most of the shingles off our roof. So, been there before. Don't really want to deal with that. So hopefully everybody is safe and sound out there. Good evening to everybody. Appreciate you coming in. And yeah, Justin, we're almost to 5,000. I checked earlier today. I mean, I don't want to be one of those people that just checks their numbers and subscribers, but 5,000 was kind of a big deal. So I probably wouldn't get too excited again until 10,000, but we are at 48.99. So if everybody want to encourage your friends and family and all those folks to come on over. If you have not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. It's obviously free. Just hit the bell, the subscribe, the thumbs up, all those things to help people discover the channel and all the shows that we're doing over here. So I truly appreciate it. I don't have a ton of statements or anything, the monologue to open up with tonight. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and I'm assuming we'll get some questions about some things and maybe some stuff that we'll get some questions answered then when Nick comes in, because I'd like to maybe get his thoughts on a few things too. But obviously, stadium questions are out there. If you want to talk about that, the draft, if you want to talk about the rookie minicamp coming up this weekend, what's left in free agency, anything and everything. It's what the Q&A is here for. If I don't know the answers, hey, I'll try and find them. So, and if you're listening to this after the fact, fire your question up on YouTube on the comments, and Nick and I go through those all the time and have some discussions and answer questions. So, and I'm going to probably be doing that tonight after the show. So. Definitely would like to hear it. But other than that, I'm going to get right into the questions tonight. Randy wants to know, how do you see the defense affected with Snead and Gay's departures? Good question. I mean, we haven't really talked about it a whole lot yet. And in Gay's departure, I honestly don't see it having a huge impact. I mean, obviously it's a blow to the depth of that linebacker unit for this team. And I obviously think that they're losing a little bit of speed, but it's a deep group. And even though maybe some of the guys at the end don't have the speed that Willie Gay did, I mean, Cam Jones is a player I'm really interested in seeing this year. The Chiefs do have a lot of like undrafted free agents in the back of that room. Jack Cochran's in that group too. These I think are really solid players, and the Chiefs were really intrigued about Cam Jones. Now he had the injury last year that slowed him down a little bit, but I'm intrigued to see what happens in year two, and if they're able to get a little bit more out of him and how he's developed and how he grows in that position. So let's see what happens with Cam, but I don't think it's going to affect a huge amount. I mean, Willie was kind of a part-time player last year. This year, what are we going to see? I mean, I think we'll continue to see, if healthy, as much Nick Bolton as possible. We'll see Drew Tranquill in Willie Gay's role, essentially. Now, he played a lot of that role last year, too, so it won't be a huge change there from a schematic standpoint, personnel standpoint, or from Drew's standpoint. I think you're obviously going to see more work for Leo Chanel. I mean, he's continued to earn it and deserve it. So anytime you get those guys out there, and I guess the question to me is going to be a little bit about, hey, does this affect which linebackers you take off the field when you're in sub packages? So when the Chiefs do have two linebackers, I mean, it's going to depend on the situation. I mean, Nick Bolton will be out there in all situations. They might give him some drives off from time to time just to kind of try and keep him fresh because Drew Tranquill is absolutely prepared to do that. So you don't miss anything really with having Drew Tranquill in there for Nick. So giving Bolton off a drive or two a game might be just a good way to lessen his snaps and keep him fresh. Leo, is really picking up more and more every year. I mean, last year he was so good playing on the ball on the line of scrimmage. So I don't know that I think we're really going to see this team affected by Willie Gay's departure. I mean, that's not to diminish anything Willie did or how good he was, because he was a great athlete, and definitely the fastest of that linebacker group, and he brought a lot of energy. But I think that the defense is going to be able to find some energy from other places. I think they got some other players who are absolutely going to step up into that role. I think that the bigger question obviously is L'Jarius Sneed and how he's going to affect that defense. And one question obviously is are the Chiefs going to feel comfortable letting Trent McDuffie travel with the best receivers on the other side of the football? I think they will. I mean, whether that's in week one or not, whether that's something that develops through the season. And remember, I mean, a little bit of that was L'Jarius, volunteering for that role and stepping up. I mean, I think that had L'Jarius not volunteered for the role, I think that he would have been asked, and he was probably even encouraged a little bit to ask for the role. So that's going to be question one: is whether or not you have McDuffie travel with the top receivers on the other side of the football. And then, I mean, it's going to be who's the starters and how is the rotation? I mean, is Jalen Watson or Joshua Williams going to win that job outright? Will it continue to be kind of a rotational piece? Will it be that, they're going to be schematic matchups? Whomever is the cornerback that they feel is the better cornerback matchup that week is going to get more snaps. I mean, that's pretty much how it was last year when those two were healthy. It was just a rotation on what they thought was the best schematic matchup. So I don't know if that's going to change a lot either. I mean, who gets those snaps unless someone just outright wins the job. And I'm not ruling out Najee Johnson in that conversation. I'm probably ruling out, anybody else in the competition. I mean, I think Echo Boydo is obviously someone to consider, but I don't know if he's going to compete for a starting job. Kamal Haddon is absolutely going to, compete for a roster spot on this team. Is he going to compete for a starting spot? I mean, I don't think he's there yet either. Could be surprised, be a pleasant surprise if one of these young guys came in and was competing on the level of Williams and Watson and could give them a run. But yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance that you're just going to continue to see them match up. Like I said, unless, especially Williams or Watson, unless one of them absolutely clearly wins that role, I think you'll probably see them maybe share that 2 and 3 spot, and it might change week to week about who's the 2 and who's the 3 in that, just based on what teams are going up against, what the other receivers are, where they are strong, the size. I mean, all those things. So that really worked well for the Chiefs last year as far as rotating those based on matchups. So like I said, unless we see a giant leap from one of those two to just outright take the job, I think that's how that battle might just shake out, is that you just continue to play matchups. And I mean, that's a good problem to have. If you've got two guys that are good enough to start, that you're able to just go with the player who has the best matchup. I mean, that to me is a pretty favorable position to be in. So I definitely, obviously, L'Jarius needs a bigger guy to replace, and that's the bigger issue. But we'll see, Randy. I mean, maybe it'll be a different outcome. Maybe we'll end up seeing that the Chiefs miss Willie Gay a lot more than I think that they will. You never know. So we'll see what happens once they get on the field for real here. And certainly we'll find out in September when it gets real. Sharon, one of our great members here. Thank you very much, Sharon. Of course, if you're a member or you do a super thanks, anything like that, you move to the top of the queue. So, Sharon, what is the timeline for extending UFAs, and which guys would you like to see the Chiefs keep? Good question. I'm going to take a quick drink. I'm trying to slow down and not talk as fast, but um, right now, I mean, other than the rookies that the Chiefs just drafted, and anyone who's a first and second year player can't be assigned to an extension. The deadline that starts that window is at the end of the season, and it's at the end of your third year, at the end of the regular season, when that window opens. So in this case, the window for instance, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Nick Bolton, that opened in January at the end of the regular season. At that point, the Chiefs could extend any and every one of them. Now, it's going to be in January of 2025 when the next window opens, and that's going to be for the 2022 class. So that's the first chance that you're going to get to extend Trent McDuffie and the George Karlaftises of the world. So that's going to be another big one. I mean, the Chiefs, and those two have obviously they have fifth year options as well, but most teams want to try and get those deals done before the fifth year option kicks in and rework it. I mean, but you do have a little bit longer runway with those players. But right now, I mean, the big one is that trio of the 2021 class. So it's Bolton, Humphrey, and Smith. And I mean, you want to keep all three of them. I mean, that'd be the bottom line. But as Nick and I have been talking about, increasingly, especially as we're talking about the draft, and I think the Chiefs draft absolutely is indicative of their concern about next year. The guard market is just absolutely blowing up right now. So guards are getting paid a ton of money, and that's why I firmly believe that it's going to be more expensive for the Chiefs to keep Trey Smith than it's going to be for them to keep Creed Humphrey. I'm pulling it up right now, so give me a second here. But the highest paid positions, I mean, especially this plays in if you wanted to use the franchise tag on either one of these players. The top annual average value for a center right now was Jason Kelce with his 1-year deal for $4.25 million. Frank Ragnow with Detroit has the top center deal now at $13.5 million. I mean, I honestly would have no problems giving Creed Humphrey $14 million a year right now. I mean, he's with the retirement of Jason Kelce. If you want to look at all pro list, he is the top center in the league right now. So I would have absolutely zero worries whatsoever giving him that kind of money. And the franchise tag would be a little bit less than that. Guard wise, however, the average annual value top one right now is Landon Dickerson. He's got $21 million a year with the Eagles. That's also a guy that just was coming off his rookie season. So this is his second contract. He's 25. That's the right there in the middle. I mean, those are the guys who are going to get paid the most money, are the players who are generally coming into their second contract and are still young. I mean, that was the tough thing for L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed ended up getting paid, but he was ending his first contract and he was 27. If you're 24 and you're 25 and you're looking for that second contract, you're probably going to make even more money. But, looking at it right now, I mean, the top 4 contracts in the league at guard are all 20 million plus. So, factoring in Dickerson's number, I mean, the franchise tag for a guard, it's going to be $20 million. The franchise tag for a center is going to be probably more like 12 and a half, 13 maybe. So that's a huge difference. So if the Chiefs needed to use a franchise tag, obviously it's much cheaper with Creed. It's a much cheaper deal to get something long-term done with Creed. So if you wanted to, I mean, the affordable thing would be to sign a long-term deal with Humphrey. You could use the franchise tag on Trey for a year if you needed to keep him. That would not be a problem. But I think long-term, if healthy and continues to have a good season, and has another good season, I mean, Trey Smith's going to be, asking for close to $20 million. I mean, he's going to be in that ballpark. So now linebacker gets a little bit more interesting, and that's where, you really wish these things got separated out, because, there are players who are classified as linebackers who are edge rushers and make a ton of money. So and that's going to complicate things as far as, getting something done with Creed or with Nick, because the franchise tag's harder to use on a middle linebacker, because the franchise tag is going to be a whole lot more than you want to pay a middle linebacker. I mean, the franchise tag for Bolton would be like around, I mean, it's going to be in the mid 20s. It's going to be a big number. For but just making a standard inside linebacker deal. Roquan Smith with Baltimore has an outlier deal. He and Fred Warner are both up close to $20 million. Tremaine Edwards is at 18, and then there's a big drop off as far as annual average value goes. A huge drop off. I mean, right now the fourth highest paid average annual value for an inside linebacker is 8.6 million. So inside linebackers don't typically make that much money. So what would Bolton look for? I mean, I'm guessing that Bolton would be looking for 18 to 20 to 20 million a year. Would he settle for less than that? Would he settle for 16? Would he settle for 14? There's a wider window with a deal for Bolton, but it's a lot more difficult to use the franchise tag. So I think the tag is more likely to be used on either Creed or Trey. We'll see what happens. But no doubt, I mean, Chiefs want to keep all three of them. Absolutely. What would be my handicapping of it as far as, who they keep and how it works out? I do think that Creed's the easiest to keep. So I would put it, I can't say anything's 100%, but I would say probably, getting a long-term deal done with Creed Humphrey is probably 90%. I think Bolton is probably the next easiest. I'd probably put that around 60%. And Trey Smith's going to be the hardest because he's going to be in the position to ask for the most money. And that's why, obviously, if you're the Chiefs, you'd love to be in a situation where you're not paying a left tackle as much, and maybe they won't be if Suamadia and Wanya Morris come through and win that job for them and can hold it down. But Trey, I'd probably say right now, maybe 30%. I think it's going to be tougher to keep him. So another good question to keep an eye on. And yeah, anybody that's in that 2021 class, whether it's draft picks or undrafted free agents, this is the window. You can sign them. They are all eligible for free agency in March, but you can sign them anytime. What's the practicality of that, though? Brett Veach talked about Monday, the runway for these players is basically between now and beginning of the season. Some players, some agents will shut down negotiations once the season starts and won't pick it up again until afterwards. Some you can continue to work with. So people say I think I say we'll see is way too much, so I'll try and cut that out. I'll try and eliminate that the rest of the night. But it's one of those situations that I don't think anybody knows for sure what's going to happen. They're going to try and get those three done, but I'd be very surprised if they get all three done. But they absolutely would love to get two of the three, because then that would allow you the possibility of keeping all three of them with the franchise tag. But just saying, the fact that the Chiefs drafted two interior offensive linemen, including one with a lot of center experience, is definitely a hedge towards next year when Trey and Creed are free agents. And don't forget, Joe Thuney's going to be 33 years old with a $26.9 million cap hit, and the Chiefs could save $16.9 million by walking away from Thuney next year. So you could be in a position where you're changing all three of those positions. I don't think so. I mean, I think the Chiefs will keep at least one, if not two of them. Keeping all three is going to be hard. Matt, another member, so moving him up to the top of the queue here. Matt, where does Tamba rank for you in terms of Chiefs defenders from this century? Ooh, really good question. And was actually having this conversation over the weekend when we were trying to guess who the Ring of Honor inductee was going to be, and clarifying about who was eligible now. We're in an era where there's going to be some big names going into the Ring of Honor in the next few years. Because right now, eligible for next year's Ring of Honor class, Hall of Honor class, is going to be Eric Berry, Jamal Charles, Derrick Johnson, excuse me. I think Alex Smith becomes eligible next year. So those are four players I absolutely expect to be in the Hall of Honor one day. So Tamba, man, that's a tough one, because from this century, well, that one, I mean, I'm gonna just limit it in that sense to just the players who have spent the bulk of their career. And I think of like 2000 era-esque plus, players. because I know there's going to be some players that I'm thinking of that, were in the early 2000s, but maybe they only played a year or two. So, and then again, I mean, there were some really tough Chiefs defenses in the early 2000s. So let's see what names do we want to put in that discussion. If you want to throw any at the bottom, I'm going to go scrolling through and looking at your suggestions too about who that would be. Maybe Nick will even come in here too, because I'd love to hear what he thinks about that. Trying to just make sure I'm going through and make sure there's nobody that I am missing out on. But okay, there's Tamba, there's Justin Houston. Derrick Johnson absolutely belongs in that conversation. Eric Berry absolutely in that conversation. Who else you got? I mean, there's some other players that I absolutely, I know I'm overlooking, and there's some that I'm thinking about saying, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to put them in that conversation quite yet. Gosh. Let me go over to all my different screens and see who we got here. What are some of your suggestions? Looking to see who's got DJ. Yeah. Oh, well, Chris Jones. I forgot about mentioning anybody who's actually on the team right now. Chris Jones belongs in there. We're doing that. I mean, you probably need to throw L'Jarius Sneed into the conversation. I will mention Frank Clark, even though he is not in that group. So I know he's not going to, I would not include Frank Clark as to be the best Chiefs defender, but he deserves to be in the conversation, I think, for especially what he did in the playoffs. I mean, obviously he was one of the better playoff defenders we've ever seen. Eric Berry, yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I mean, this is, I'm trying to think of anybody I would put in there differently other than that core group. And so of DJ, Chris Jones, Tamba, Justin Houston, Eric Berry. Had Eric Berry not had the last few years of his career cut short, Justin, good one. I'm gonna let you have that one. Ordering it was going to be tough, but I would absolutely have to go at the top with Chris Jones, because Chris is going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, and the titles help. I mean, if Tamba had 2 rings, he'd probably be going into the NFL Hall of Fame too, Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, yeah, I mean, Eric Berry, and because I wrote this a couple of years, well, when he was still playing, and it was I was asked by a national magazine that I had done some work for to do a piece on, who was on your team at that particular moment was the most likely Hall of Famer, and this would have been before Mahomes. So actually, I think it was 2017. So we weren't allowed to pick rookies of those. So maybe I should have picked Patrick. Absolutely. But I picked Berry, and that was obviously just before he got hurt. But my point is that he probably needs another 2 good years, to get into the Hall of Fame, and that those injuries, hurt him. They took away what his Hall of Fame, credentials and his Hall of Fame resume. So, I mean, maybe it's a cop-out answer, Matt. I'm going to say Chris is absolutely the best defender for the Chiefs this century. Now, who's number 2? Oh man, I mean, all 3 of Eric Berry, DJ, Chris Jones, or excuse me, Tamba and Justin all have it. Gosh, I mean, I think I would probably go with Eric Berry number 2. Then the question is longevity versus really high points. I should probably say Justin Houston number 3, because his high points were better than anybody else's. That would probably, but gosh, I mean, I'm leading myself down a road where I say that Tamba's number 5 and DJ's 4, but gosh, I kind of feel like that's the way it shakes out. I mean, maybe numbers wise, because Tamba had like 89.5 sacks, and how many did Justin have for Kansas City? Let me pull that up real quick. I can't remember Justin's total off the top of my head with the Chiefs. I want to say he had more than that, but how many? No, he had 78.5. So, oh man, I think oh man, I might have to tweak that a little. Well, I don't know. I mean, Tamba had the longevity with the Chiefs, so I think I have to go with the high points. And man, you've got me going here. I mean, I know I'm probably boring everybody by talking to myself about who's the best Chiefs defender of this century, but I thought it was a really cool question. I think I have to go Justin ahead of gosh, Tamba had some good years though. they're almost even on the whole All-Pro Pro Bowl thing. Although Tamba had 2 All-Pro second teams and Justin had 1 All-Team first team. I think I still have to go. I think I still have to go Justin. So I think I'm going to put him 3. DJ's just longevity and records. I mean, leading tackler in team history. I think I got to go with that. So DJ 4, Tamba 5. There's somebody I'm missing out there. I might consider them, but I think that's the group. Anybody else that have any other names? Jared Allen. Yeah, Harold, Casey Harold. That's probably worth considering too. I mean, I'm not trying to say that in a way that like I'm like dismissing Jared Allen, because no, I mean, he was an absolute beast, and he obviously was, this century. It's just the number of years. I mean, that's the only if you gave him credit for his Vikings years, if he'd spent a few of those in Kansas City, I think I would have him on there. But and obviously Jared Allen's eligible for. I guess I think he's eligible. I don't think you have to have 5 years. Maybe it's just 4. So I have to double check their eligibility. I don't think it's 5 years. And once again, the Chiefs can change the rules anytime they want to, and they have. I expect they might change the rules for Tyrann Mathieu. I think, because I think at least 4 years is the minimum. So I do think there's a chance that they tweak those rules a bit to get Tyrann in, and there might be some other players, in this dynasty era that don't spend 5 years in Kansas City, or 4 or 5 years, that get into the hall. So we'll see. So sorry to go on such a detour there, but I thought Matt had a really fun question. So it's a different one than we normally get. So that was a lot of fun. And like I said, I'll answer anybody's questions. Anything you got crazy. I mean, as long as it's Chiefs related, we'll talk about it. So appreciate that. But Jackson, next question up. Could the Chiefs have 3 1,000 yards receivers this year? It's actually a good question. I mean, because Travis was close to 1,000 last year, should have had 1,000, could have had 1,000. So let's go ahead and say that Travis is still 1,000-yard capable player. Hollywood Brown is 1,000-yard capable player. Obviously, Rashee Rice got close, so I think you'd have to say 1,000-yard capable player. I don't know if there's going to be enough footballs around for the 3 of them to do that. And if anything, I think that, this also might be another one of those years that Travis takes maybe a small step back. He could still be 1,000-yard receiver. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, especially because he could play more this year, with the injury last year. And if he was healthy all year this year, he might play even more snaps. I think that the drafting of Jared, and I keep forgetting everybody's first and last names. I'm terrible. You can tell I'm getting old. Jared Wiley, thank you very much. The drafting Jared Wiley, I mean, to me is as another sign of, hey, the Chiefs are looking for someone that can transition for Travis. He's a bigger body that fits more with what Travis does in the offense. He's not Travis Kelce. Don't put the pressure on him. But his selection, at least to me, is interesting in the sense that I think that the Chiefs want to give Travis more time off, more snaps off. So, that's going to impact him a little bit. I think it's going to be really tough. I think it's always tough for a new receiver in an Andy Reid offense to be 1,000-yard receiver. So that's why I think it's going to be tough for Hollywood to get there. We don't know. I mean, Rashee Rice might get suspended this year. He might not. It might not be until 2025. You have to consider that's a possibility. I mean, I think that given healthy and given a 17-game season, Rashee is capable of being 1,000-yard receiver this year. So I think, honestly, I mean, I might even give him the best chance of the 3 to get there, because he is the youngest and the most energy and has, I think, the best chance to do it. I mean, Xavier Worthy could have a great year, but I mean, for me, I'm looking at him. If he can give you what you got from Tyreek in 2016 with Tyreek's rookie year, if you could get from Worthy this year 50 catches and 600 yards, I think it would be a fantastic season. So anything above and beyond that would be gravy. I mean, but that just comes back to, once again, how hard it is for a rookie. And last year, Rashee Rice did better than that, but a lot of it was because he was forced to step in because the Chiefs were really hurting for productive receivers. And I just don't think that's going to be the case this year. I don't think that Worthy is going to get forced into a role that the Chiefs don't think that he's ready for yet, or They just want to give him some time. So I think that there's going to be a little bit of more leeway for Worthy. So I wouldn't put him in that category yet. But this Chiefs offense, I mean, the passing game could be a whole lot better than it was last year. And you still not have 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, you could have Travis with 900. You could have, Rashee around 900. You could have Hollywood around 800. You could have Worthy around 600. You could have Justin Watson at 400. I mean, you could have some guys with some decent numbers and not have anybody actually get to 1,000. Hey, a core like Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, if Worthy becomes who the Chiefs think that they are, could they, be maybe 2,000-yard receivers for a team in the future? Yeah. I mean, obviously Rashee's already shown he's got that. We need to see what Worthy's got. And we'll see if Hollywood sticks around. If the Chiefs can get a longer-term deal done with him and keep him, then, I think there's a good chance maybe going forward in the future. As far as this year for 3,000-yard receivers, I probably think it's pretty low. I'd say maybe I'll put it at 12%. I like to just throw out some odd ball numbers sometimes. And that's not a scientific factor. This is just off the top of my head. So put me down for 12. But if I put the number at 12, I'd probably take the under. I just think it's pretty remote this year. But do they have, maybe 4 players who could be 1,000-yard receivers in their careers? Yeah. That's if Worthy develops the way that they think so, absolutely. Chris, what is the weakest part of the roster currently? That's a tough question when you're talking about the 2-time Super Bowl champs and the weak part of their roster. I still think, and I know I'm going to upset some folks that are especially big fans of Isaiah Pacheco, but I'm going to go the running back room. I think that's the one that if you wanted to beef up the most, that if you could put one player onto this team that would make the biggest difference, I still think a speed running back would be it. That, Isaiah is a hard runner and he's got deceptive speed, but he doesn't really have breakaway speed. We've kind of seen that because, we haven't seen him, break off one of those kind of runs that Kareem and Damian Williams, that did have breakaway speed. Those guys could do those 75-yard runs. Jamal Charles had breakaway speed. We haven't seen Isaiah do that. He's more of a, a grinder. He's a bigger guy. He runs really hard. He's a thick guy, I guess I should say, more than a bigger guy because he's, size wise, he's a little small, but he's a thick player and he's tough. He's just not a breakaway guy. So I think that's the one thing that if you could plop onto this team, it's because obviously the defense is really, really good. I think they're good even without L'Jarius coming back. I don't think they're going to miss L'Jarius a ton. I think they will miss him some, but I wouldn't say that's the weakest. I don't think the cornerback group is particularly weak. I think they're in decent shape, and obviously they got an All-Pro and Trent McDuffie. So I think they're in a good spot there. But that's why I say it's, and I know, I probably should say the receiver room, but I think they have retooled that to the point where they're in really good shape as well. So, yeah, I think I have to lean on the running back room because I think that's the one place to me that's still that if you were to, like I said, if I could drop one player on this team into a spot where I think that it would make the most difference as far as improving this team, I think that's the one spot is a speed running back. That I once again, I still don't have my hourglass, but I do see that Nick Jacobs has arrived in the green room and he's shrinking, but he's so I'm going to give him his 30-second warning. I won't bring him in yet, but I'm going to let him answer this question second, Jackson, because this is another really good question. I like yours. Which draft pick is your personal favorite this year? I'm not hiding it. Jaden Hicks is the one for me. I think that the Chiefs got great value and they got what they wanted with their first 2 picks. Really excited about a guy like Wiley. I think he can really fit into this team. I think a player with the traits of a Kamal Hayden really fits in and could be a real surprise. But to me, Jared Hicks, one of the top 2 corners or safeties rather on almost everybody's board. Great size. There's just nothing not to like about this guy. the number of people that had him at a bare minimum second round pick was almost everybody. So how this guy fell, other than, hey, safeties are not as valued as they once were. It's a bit supply and demand. And that's one thing I was really starting with when I was trying to think about why, Hicks fell. I think that supply and demand, as I bring in Nick here so that he can field this question next with his favorite pick.
I'm here.
I think it's supply and demand. I think that everybody's got safeties right now. Even look at it. There's some good free agent safeties that are out there that aren't going anywhere because teams are happy with their safeties. So there's other positions. That's why some terrible quarterbacks went in the top 12, Nick, because everybody's looking for a quarterback and there's not a great supply of quarterbacks at any one time. So sometimes terrible quarterbacks go in the top half of the first round.
Yes. So you want me to answer which draft pick is my favorite?
After I say welcome, Nick, thank you for joining us as always. Thank you once again.
It's a pleasure to see you.
That was not the greatest of smoothest of transitions in bringing you into the show, but I didn't do it 3 seconds after you appeared in the green room. So
that's all I ask.
That's all you ask.
That's all I ask.
Who's your favorite draft pick this year?
I like Hunter. From Penn State, Hunter Norzad.
You're an offensive lineman. I should have known this.
He's a physical throwback type of offensive lineman. If everything goes right, he should be a starter within 2 years. You just get this year to kind of be a redshirt year, work behind Joe Thuney and Trey Smith, and then depending what road the Chiefs go down, he can potentially move into a starting role, but also be a backup center. So, Hunter's at the top of my chart. Look, I like Worthy too. I know what Worthy can bring to the table speed-wise, how much he's going to change that offense, but Hunter, that's a sneaky good pick there in the 5th round that could likely become a fan favorite down the road for the foreseeable future. So, from a personality perspective, I really enjoyed when you and I both chatted with Kingsley, on his press conference night. Just from personality alone, you're really going to like who he is as a player. I expect the more he talks to the media, the more fans get to hear from him because of that. I think he's going to be somebody fans are going to really root for.
Yeah, I think, and that's true. I think almost of all of the Chiefs draft picks, there was nobody that we talked to this weekend that you came away, thinking, what were the Chiefs doing with this guy? They all, for lack of a better phrase, and to lean on a cliche, Nick, they all won their press conferences, some more than others, but there was nothing. It wasn't really anything to dislike about any of these draft picks this year.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of like whenever I asked Brett Veach yesterday about the traits that they wanted in players, and he talked about, the leadership aspect, and he mentioned just intelligence and kind of athletic ability and all that combined. There's themes each team has when they're looking for players. So, there's one thing they want trait-wise that makes them unique from everybody else, but then there's a common theme that they want that's going to fit in their locker room. And so whenever I asked Brett Veach that, I knew he was probably going to give me something along the lines of what they're looking for in their locker room. So you can add that to your list of kind of learning about the Chiefs roster building and what they're actually trying to do. They're not always just trying to get the best player available, because guess what? The best player available may be a very rude individual that doesn't fit in the locker room. But if they're a great person, they work hard, and they're going to do the type of things that the Chiefs need from them, and the coaches that they previously had rave about them, then guess what? They're probably going to get picked by the Chiefs. So that's just something to always be mindful of. And I'm kind of disappointed, Matt, that I thought more people would be critical of some of the names I left off the board that I had. But I don't. Maybe people just haven't looked closely at some of the names I left off the board. Now that's going to be a who's who of people trying to find it. Where's Waldo?
Well, I think part of it is we did a really, really good job leading up to the draft explaining why people were not on your board. Because
I don't know. I still got somebody upset that I didn't put Bo Nix on it. I'm like, okay, he wasn't coming here. Why do I care?
Yes. If anybody asks any questions tonight that lets me go off on either the Broncos or the Atlanta Falcons, I won't mind that. So I'll have fun with that. But that doesn't mean you have to ask that question. But
let me change my alias to Timmy Timerson wants to know.
I knew Timmy was going to get involved.
Timmy Timerson,
man. WNB ask, what do you think happened with Jerick McKinnon? Will he retire? Was just no interest to return for some reason? I guess you can't close the door completely because McKinnon has signed late in the past. He hasn't made an announcement or anything, so we really don't know. I mean, I made the allusion yesterday in reference that, hey, when they give your number away, that's usually a hint that, the team's not thinking about bringing you back. It can absolutely also just be, Nick, that, hey, the equipment guys just wanted to get rid of the number one because they had a bunch of them laying around and want to hand it out. And it could be that that's what Xavier Worthy wanted. I mean, he's rookie, he's on the team, he says, hey, I want one. You're going to give your first round draft pick the number he wants. So it could be a lot of things, and Jerick McKinnon can come back and wear a different number. That's not a big deal. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I haven't been told one way or the other yet if McKinnon is gone forever or might come back at some point.
Well, with Jerick, you saw him start to slow down last year. Like, he didn't have the same burst that he had before, and that's to be expected at his age and wear and tear that he's been through in the NFL. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised to see him not be able to have the same burst that he had before, had the same athletic ability that he had before. And then once he played through the injury he did, and then ended up having the surgery, like, you knew it was going to be a while before he got back to 100%. I know he was active for the Super Bowl, but even then, I don't think he was near 100%. I think he just wanted to be able to contribute and be a part of that and be part of a championship ring. So, like, look, I mean, he's done a fantastic job here. He's been more than they could have asked for as a rotational running back, but he's getting to that age where, like, the career is going to force him out. The wear and tear is going to force him out. And, like, it's that slope is slowly beginning. It's just a matter of, does he want to push it even more to where reality catches up and he deals with another injury that really he isn't going to be able to come back from. That's going to be his choice, and that's what a lot of players over 30 have to kind of decide if they're not quarterbacks.
Yeah. And I wouldn't blame Jerick if he wants to be in the position of, just because he's got a couple of Super Bowl rings now, he can afford to sit back and wait to see, hey, which team needs a running back at some point. Maybe he doesn't want to play all 17 regular season games and go into a playoff. Maybe he's thinking to himself, wait a minute, I can pull a Mike Pennell here and wait until October or November and see which playoff team needs me. And then go find myself a job and try and win another ring. That's perfectly legitimate strategy. I will say this. I mean, there was definitely some friction last year as far as how much Jerick thought he could play before the injury when he was healthy versus how much the Chiefs thought he should play. So, that could be true on a lot of teams. It could still be true with this team, but that could be a stumbling block on both sides if there's just a disagreement on workload as far as, how much Jerick thinks that he can handle versus how much the team thinks that he can handle. So that's something that would have to be addressed, I think, before McKinnon comes back. But I think that if he does come back, then it's because they've addressed that. So I don't think it really is worth, worrying about too much. But if Jerick doesn't come back to the Chiefs and he does play in 2024, my guess is that it's because he's looking for a place where he feels like he can be used more and utilized differently, and maybe get chance to play a little bit more. And what absolutely every year could be his last year of his career, because as Andy Reid has said, he is a dinosaur at the running back position. Guys just don't last as long as he's lasted at that position.
Yeah, no, that's a tribute to what he's put into it to be able to last as long as he has. Because most guys his age are out of the league.
This is true. I guess our good friend Cole over at Locked On Chiefs, or Locked On Chiefs, How About Those Chiefs, must have been talking about is always appreciated all the kind words from Cole. So if anybody's coming over here from How About Those Chiefs, thank you very much. I do appreciate you visiting, stopping by. Remember to subscribe, though, so you can come back later. Keep coming back. This might be the same question. Oh, this is Scott's question is about the number. Is the fact that it looks like Worthy is wearing number 1, a sign that McKinnon isn't coming back this year. I mean, like I said, it's not a quid pro quo, but it's pretty good. Sometimes pretty good indicator. So we'll see what happens. Chris was talking about Monday Night Raw, Nick, and I'm sure you were all over that last night, right?
I did keep tabs on it, yes.
Since Mahomes attended Monday Night Raw last night, will Florio begin speculating about a potential retirement by number 15? Or will he question whether there's a split among the KC offensive linemen? I always appreciate good shots at Florio. And I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about Monday Night Raw, Nick.
I didn't actually watch it. I just saw the
You just
clips that
kept tabs.
WWE kept putting on Twitter. So I mean, that's what I was doing in that regard. But yes, they clearly had some things schemed up with Mahomes to get him on air and to kind of get buzz and get some traction on to get people to watch Monday Night Raw. And you obviously saw Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith with the Super Bowl championship Chiefs belts that they were clearly given or had or however they went about it, but they have those. And then they had one of the wrestlers interact with them at one point. I'm not talking about Logan Paul. They gave, or Mahomes apparently part of the storyline was he gave him what looked like 3 of the Super Bowl rings, even though he would only have 2 of them. And then people were wondering where that third one came from. And I guess it's probably a conference championship ring, and or just some other ring that I don't, who the heck knows. And then that Logan Paul used that punch somebody in the mat. Or in the ring and knocked him on the mat, but it was one of his buddies or something like that, I think, by their reaction. And then another one of the wrestlers came out there and started talking to Mahomes, and they went back and forth. And then Creed and Trey stepped up, and you saw the clip of Trey taking off his glasses. Clearly, I don't know any of these wrestlers' names, but they were there. And they got Mahomes and Creed and Trey involved in the storyline, because I know Creed and Trey, they go to pretty much any wrestling event that comes into town. That's kind of the funny thing, is a lot of the offensive line goes to the wrestling events that come into town.
Yeah, and but I always give a shout out to the guys in the background. So shout out to Chris Oladokin and Garrick Dieter for also getting some screen time, but just not getting the name recognition.
Well, and we'll put in Jackie Moon here at 748 talking about Florida's right about the Mahomes raise, though. Well, he did a story on it every week to try to put pressure on it. So, I mean, let's not call it right. Let's just call it somebody was trying to use leverage with their website to create pressure. So let's pump the brakes on that one.
There is that, yes. And I mean, my bet is on Florio suggesting that Mahomes is going to retire to join the PGA Tour. So, because the great thing is, Nick, is that all you have to do is you just have to put that on your website, and if it's wrong, somebody will tell you that it's wrong. Apparently.
Look, there's so much in that rabbit hole we could go down.
I know. I need to just get over it and move on.
At the end of the day, the person is who they are. They're going to do what they have to do to get clicks, and they're going to use the names they have to do to try to get those clicks. And one of those names that's going to be used is either going to involve Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, or Travis Kelce, because that gets them a lot of clickable stuff on the website. And for people that don't know, those Travis Kelce and Mahomes are pretty marketable, not only in the United States, but also globally. They're recognized globally in different parts of the country. So if he's trying to get as many clicks as possible, he's going to find any story about them to use in any way, shape, or form, or any speculative thing or educated guess or whatever you want to frame it, to be able to talk about them in whatever capacity they can. They talk about how they went to an ice cream social and had 2 scoops of strawberry ice cream or whatever the heck it is, but you still clicked on it, so that's all that they care about.
There you go. And I just want to say I do appreciate anybody that compliments the show and everything we do here on the YouTube channel, the Chiefs Digest. But please try and keep it civil. I don't like to call anybody names, so play nice. I don't want to especially I don't want to ban anybody or block anybody who's being complimentary. But just chill out, be cool. We're all on the same team here. We don't need to do anything. Just be nice to each other. Just have a little love. That's all I'm going to say. Cody asking,
Matt, you could have just told me directly.
There you go. You had to log in under your burner account, Nick, and cause problems.
That happens.
Cody asking, do you know if Worthy had a first-round grade from the team or a high second? I mean, I think the Chiefs gesture in itself says a lot, that they were willing to move up. That tells you that they had a first-round grade on Xavier Worthy. And that's that's not universal. I mean, not every team had a first-round grade on Xavier Worthy. Then again, I mean, I don't know of any team that had a first-round grade on Bo Nix and Michael Penix, but they went the first round too. But maybe one team each had a first-round grade on those guys. But no, I mean, I think it's pretty evident from what Brett Veach has said and, the indication about their gestures that they made, that when he's talking about those 16 to 18 players they had a first-round grade on, Xavier Worthy was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't necessarily matter either way if they're first round grade or second round grade, because at the reality of it, I mean, people lock in and think that that means that first round grade means they're going to be a superstar. But at the end of the day, whether they're with where the Chiefs are picking on 32, like I mean, you're going to be in that territory between somebody who could potentially be a starter or at least be great depth, or somebody that could potentially have an impact. So I mean, Worthy's right there on that fine line as probably 10 to 12 other guys potentially were that were going to get drafted and either did in the first round or the second round. So I mean, just the territory where the Chiefs are, like it's going to be in that range every single time. So that's why I'm, grade wise, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about, best available player, and that's typically what you're going for. What I'm intrigued in, it's not really worth diving into a lot, but in the other multiverses, Nick, I mean, if Xavier Worthy goes somewhere else at 28, if Chiefs don't trade up to get him and he goes somewhere first, I mean, I think you can say that there were certainly two other teams in the area that would have certainly had an interest in Xavier Worthy, because Ricky Pearsall and Xavier Legette were two guys who were, I think you'd say, second tier versions of Xavier Worthy. I mean, those are two players that you draft if you don't get Xavier Worthy. So, I mean, the Chiefs got the guy that they wanted. I mean, absolutely. I mean, they wanted a particular player to fit a particular spot to fill a particular role. And it was a guy that they had a first round grade on. Hey, do the Chiefs go receiver in the first round if Xavier Worthy's not there? I mean, there's a reasonable chance that they don't, that they go elsewhere. So I mean, it would be an interesting, flap of the butterfly's wings to see how this draft unfolds for the Chiefs differently had Worthy not been there for them to go get at 28, because that was absolutely a player that they definitely wanted in the first round. So they got what they wanted. I mean, to a degree, I mean, the NFL let the Chiefs get what they want, which usually does not work out for the rest of the NFL. Quick one here, because I call Casey Chiefs Matt had ordered the book that's listed out there on Amazon for On the Clock. I am sad to say that the book's been pushed back, so it won't be coming out. So I hope Amazon does take care of you. Nope, not in the war room this year. No, I don't get invited into the war room, unfortunately. But if and when the book comes out, you will have stories that are told to me from people who were in the war room. That would be the hope one day. So appreciate you asking about that. And sorry, it's not going to be coming out. Don't mean to disappoint you. It's been pushed back, so don't have a date for it or anything. We'll I hate to see. I said I wasn't going to say it, so I'm not going to say it. But something will happen down the road, and we'll find out. So, Luttrell, when is Butker getting a new deal? I mean, he's already pretty well paid right now, but I guess that's going to be the next question, Nick, is now that, Mahomes and Jones and Kelsey have gotten their paydays, who's the next Chiefs hero and star that needs a raise and needs more money or needs an extension? I mean, we talked about, obviously, the rookie class of 21 that's going to be up for extensions and you need to extend the offseason. Is Butker or somebody else on your radar, Nick? Is somebody needs to be taken care of by Clark?
I mean, not really. He's already getting paid top kicker money, so they can revisit that in the offseason. But I mean, Creed's going to be up there probably number one for me, and then Trey Smith, I would probably financially give him a number if everybody's comfortable with it, and then go from there in terms of who you may want to add on to the list. But I mean, the Chiefs got a lot of people next year that are going to potentially could need new deals. So I mean, like, there's only so much money they're going to have to go around, and that's why they made some of the draft picks they did. Because if Jaden Hicks is able to hit, then they may not be able to bring Justin Reed back, when he's a free agent. If Felix Uzama hits, then they may not bring back Charles Omenihu. Like, I mean, these are just the realities of what they may have to do, and if they can't work something out with Trey, then that may be where Hunter Norzad, becomes the new starter, or, and maybe Hansen, depending on how he does developmental wise. But I mean, the Chiefs use this draft to put themselves in position to where some of the free agents they're going to have next year, if they have to go in a different direction, they don't create a hole for themselves.
Yeah, and I hadn't really thought about it too much, but I mean, Harrison is in the last year of his deal, so and the guys that I would put him in the category of, I mean, he is in Justin Tucker's category. Justin Tucker's making $6 million a year right now. I obviously Young Hoku is also in that category. He's making 4.85. Harrison's deal that he's on right now pays him just over 4. So I think you'd certainly make the sense that he's underpaid. His cap hit this year is 4.8. That's about right. But if Harrison went to Brett Veach and Clark Hunt right now and said, "Hey guys, I deserve to make $6 million a year," I couldn't argue with him. I mean, he's one of the 3 best kickers in the league in my book. And I think he's going to continue to be a really good kicker for a few more years. Right now, he makes almost the exact same money as Cairo Santos does, oddly enough. And I love me some Cairo Santos, one of the greatest dudes in the world, but Harrison Butker's better. I mean, he needs to be making a lot more money than Cairo Santos.
So for people that are wondering about the names, we'll throw them out here right now. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Justin Reed, Marquise Brown, Noah Gray, Justin Watson, Derrick Nottie, Nick Bolton, Charles Omenihu, Tershawn Wharton, Harrison Butker, Herb Smith, James Winchester, Kadarius Toney, Isaiah Buggs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Matt Dickerson, and then Deion Bush, Carson Wentz, Michael Pirine, Lucas Niang, Mike Pennell, and Calvin Joseph. And then that is pretty much the only other UFA is Anthony Miller. So every single one of those guys is going to be UFA as of right now. So that's why the Chiefs did what they did draft-wise, because some of those decisions, if they got to make them, they got a guy behind them who can help them make them if they have to.
That is absolutely true. One of our members, Des the Gem, with the super chat. Appreciate that, Des. Rap Sheet reported that Rashid may not be suspended until the 2025 season. Do you think that is more likely than 24? I've been saying all along, I mean, I think 2025 is much more likely. The NFL typically does not make decisions on suspensions until the legal process is completed. I think if the legal process on this got completed in 8 months, it would be the quickest legal process that I have seen of any NFL player in my time covering the NFL.
Okay. I'm glad you said NFL, because I was like, I don't know. You've seen Law and Order, okay?
Yeah, Law and Order NFL version would be much more drawn out. And let's face it, I mean, part of it's because sometimes you do everything you can to run out the clock so you can maybe push a suspension until next season. Remember, we don't have to go too far away since the Frank Clark suspension. Frank had his incidents were what I think over a 3-month period from like March through June, maybe a 4-month period, and was not suspended until the following season. So yeah, I mean, and the only reason I think that Rashid would be suspended at any point in 2024 is really one of 2 things. Either one, the legal process concludes much faster than I think any of us expect. And it's just disposed of, and they move on, and there's a resolution, and therefore the NFL can take a judgment. Or 2, there is some fact that we are not aware of that becomes relevant that makes it more expedient for the NFL to feel like that they need to do something. Because at this point, Nick, I mean, I see no reason why he would end up on the commissioner's exempt list, anything of that nature. It would only be if there is information that changes what we know. I mean, that obviously happened with Kareem Hunt's case. That was a different situation. There was information that became available that changed the equation of the case. If there's new information, that could absolutely change things. But based on what we know right now, I mean, I would bet 99% that Rashid's suspension is in the 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean, until the legal proceeding's done, I'm not really putting too much into it right now.
There you go. You said it much more succinctly than I did.
Well, Matt, I've been told I should.
Wow. Nobody. I was not that person. Sharon, once again, great member of ours. What goes on during rookie minicamp? Equal parts playbook and field, or question? I think it's a good question because I mean nobody else. There's only a few lucky few of us that get to watch the rookie minicamp. I mean, they don't have fans that get to come in for the rookie minicamp. So I can tell you that based on sometimes the coach's reaction to it, I think it's even a question about whether it's a football practice or not because. Even Andy Reid will sometimes make have a question is like, okay, well, day one of rookie minicamp, it was 53 guys out there. Didn't look like they knew what they were doing, but by the third day, it started to look like football a little bit. I mean, it's tough. What they do is that they take a lot of it's a couple of things. One, it's a introduction to the NFL for your draft picks and for some of your undrafted rookie free agents to give them a taste of what the NFL is like, what practices are like, what the expectations are for them before OTA start in a couple of weeks. For some players, it's a tryout. I mean, for the bulk of the players who are there, it's a tryout. It's their opportunity to put something on film, to show that they can play in the NFL, to show the Chiefs that they can play in the NFL, because all they are signed up for is 3 days. They're getting paid to come in. They're getting paid meal money to come in. They're getting put up in a hotel, and that's all the money that they're making. And they go out there and they run. I mean, what they do is they run NFL practice. It's just like what the Chiefs would go through. They go through position drills. They have team periods. Do all the things that the Chiefs would do in a typical practice. If you've gone up to training camp in St. Joe and you've seen a standard Chiefs 2-2-15 practice, you've seen what a rookie minicamp practice is. They go through the same thing. It's a little bit more, the playbook's a little bit more streamlined down. I mean, they do the exact same things as far as the players go through an install period in the morning, and then they go out and try to apply that on the field. It's tough because not everybody knows the playbook, and you've got a lot of different levels of athletic skill, and sometimes football IQ. So sometimes it can be tough to watch, Nick, but every once in a while you get blown away too. I mean, I remember watching Jody Fortson at that rookie minicamp. He was there on a tryout basis, and he was clearly one of the better players on the field. I mean, you could see that, hey, wait a minute, this guy's got something. And he was one of the few that breaks through and makes the team, because the odds of making it to an NFL roster as a tryout player at a rookie minicamp are astronomical. There's like 40, there are going to be like 45 tryout players there, and maybe one of them makes the roster this year, and chances are they don't.
Yeah. I mean, look, you said as best you can. I mean, they do their best to try to give them a taste of what the tempo is like to play Chiefs football, and try to go through the drills the way they'll stop and teach them as much as they can and do what they can. But I mean, for the most part, rookie camp, you don't. I'm just going to say this bluntly from almost back to 2011, I think. You're not going to get a ton from it. Like, so, like, when people are like, hey, how's this person looking? How's that person looking? Well, they look faster than all the people that didn't get drafted, and that's why they got drafted. So, I mean, that's just kind of the reality. They don't have, they're not going to have shoulder pads on. There's not going to be hitting. It's not going to be any of that type of stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you see why the players that got drafted, and then you see why the players who are trying out are trying out. Like, I mean, that's not trying to be mean or anything. It's just, it gives them one more chance at their dream. And if they aren't able to make it happen, it kind of honestly gives a lot of guys closure that, okay, now they got to start the next phase of their career. I mean, they may still work out and still try for it, or go to another team for a handful of tryouts, but like, they at least gave themselves a shot to go one, to try to make an NFL roster one more time. And I think that's what all those guys can ask for.
Yeah, and the tryout guys are interesting too because the NFL minicamps are split over 2 weeks, and part of the reason for that is that there are a lot of players who will go to training camp, minicamps both weekends. You're drawn from the same pool, so it's a great opportunity for some players to get 2 shots with 2 different teams and to be able to put some work on tape. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that for the vast majority of the players that are at that rookie minicamp, this will be their only taste of the NFL. And so when I talk about the fact that, hey, their pay this week is they get meal money, they get put up in a hotel, they got their travel paid, all of that, and they're there for that. They also get something that not a lot of people get, Nick. They get an NFL jersey with their name on it, and they get to go home with it. And that's a big deal to a lot of kids. I mean, there are probably players who have gone to a rookie mini camp and tryout basis just for the jersey, just to say that they wore an NFL jersey, that they were on an NFL practice field, they were in an NFL locker room, because it's going to be their only chance, and that's a big deal to some of them.
I can't dispute it, Matt. I really can't.
I mean, it can get emotional, so it can be sad. I still feel terrible for that kid that a couple of years ago when Jack Fox, who's now a great punter, by the way, but Jack Fox on the last play of the Chiefs rookie minicamp absolutely shanked a punt. I mean, I think it went over his head. That's how bad it was. And so they had to run the play again. They ran the play a second time. And the returner on the play, because they ran it the second time, tore his ACL on the rerun. So had Jack Fox not shanked the first punt, this kid wouldn't have torn his ACL. He probably could have gotten to a mini camp the next weekend and everything. And instead, that was the last play of his NFL career.
So here's well, maybe not. It may happen that on that play if Fox connects on it,
you never know. KC 12 saying if the Royals can put Bo Jackson in their Hall of Fame, then Justin Houston can be in the Chiefs. I mean, Justin Houston will be in the Chiefs Hall of Fame one day. I mean, it's just probably a matter of when he retires and when he agrees to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know that there's any hostility between Justin Houston and the Chiefs in that regard. I'm assuming that the day that Clark calls Justin and says, "Hey, Justin, we want to put you in the Hall of Fame," I'm sure he will be there for it. But sometimes you do have to have a little matchmaking goes.
Oh, is this supposed to have thoughts on Justin?
You don't have to have thoughts on that, Nick.
Okay. Well, what I remember about Justin Houston's career is he had a really big season when he needed to. Got $100 million, got hurt, and was never the same. That's what I remember about him. Look, don't get me wrong, he was an okay guy in the locker room. He wasn't the friendliest person, but he was in the locker room.
I'll agree with half that statement.
I'll
let you choose which half.
I already know which half, so it's fine.
Casey Harold, we're going to need a bigger ring in the stadium when the guys from the last 5 years become available. There's a lot of guys on this team that are going to end up in the Ring of Honor, Nick. I mean, they might have to put in a second row. So,
well, I guess they got something to shoot for whenever they put all those renderings together.
I mean, there's a lot of folks from the 1969 Chiefs on that Ring of Honor, so they'll find some space. They'll find whatever space they have. They can't for them.
They'll make the suites part of it.
Exactly.
It's the Ed Buddy suite for his Hall of Honor thing. There's
Mizzou,
an idea. Just put it out there. Let's see if we get some royalties on it.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be all over that. That's a good. I mean, would not be surprised if they did that. Mizzou 19
down right now.
Mizzou 19. Which of the following is more likely for Joe Thuney in 2025? He plays out the final year of his contract as is. B, restructure. C, becomes a cap casualty. I mean, I would probably say CBA would probably be my guess. I mean, Joe's going to be, I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on what happens this year because he is coming back from the pec injury. So what Joe Thuney's like this year, how much he's got left in the tank is going to be an indicator about what happens for 25. Reason it's a question, obviously, is that he has a cap hit of $26.9 million in 25. Chiefs could walk away and save $16.9 million. So, that's legitimate change that they could save. I think it would be really hard for him at 33, 34 to be playing out the final year of his contract under that cap number. B, the restructure is certainly possible. I mean, players have taken pay cuts to stick around on teams, so maybe that's possible. But that'd be my guess, Nick. I think I'd go CBA. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid.
So you're going to C.
C. It's going to be C is the most likely thing because you didn't draft interior offensive linemen for the heck of it.
That's exactly the other point too. So
you were doing this to set C up because if you don't do those, then you're going to have to go with A or B. And they've already restructured him. They've already kicked that can with him down the road twice to where that's why he's still here is because it was going to be too much to cut him versus move on because he is slowly starting to decline. His strength is starting to decline. And you can see it each passing year. And that's not a knock on him. It's just the reality of what happens of what happens whenever you've played that long in the NFL. And coming off the pec injury, like that's a question. Where's that strength going to be at? And will it be able to hold up as well as it needs to? Like, so the Chiefs had to create their insurance policies. It was called the 2024 draft class and day 3 picks. And that's what they did. And that's the road they're going to go down.
I can't disagree. It's 100%. Justin has a question that, I mean, we've kind of brushed on before, but it's still on the back of my mind, Nick, and I am going to have to ask some people about it when I get the opportunity. It just has not quite arisen yet in the right situation. But Justin asking, how concerned are you that the Dallas police have a copy of the Chiefs playbook? Now, technically speaking, I have no concerns that the Dallas police have a copy of the playbook. It would be a concern that somebody else gets a copy of the playbook from the Dallas police. We don't know. I mean, we haven't really gotten a resolution to what was in the possession of Rashee Rice, because, you and I've talked about, I mean, playbooks generally these days are on tablets. So, what exactly was it? Was it a tablet? Did Rashee Rice have a printout of the playbook? Was it something that was given to him by the team? Was it something he made? I have my questions, Nick. But that would be the concern is, I mean, you'd like to think that the Dallas police are going to be, protective of their evidence and not let it fall into the wrong hands. But I don't know what happens, Nick.
Well, I mean, if they're following correct protocol, I believe it's supposed to be in a bag marked evidence and not tampered with. Because then if it gets tampered with, then they open themselves up to some problems down the road from a legal perspective.
I've seen Law and Order, Nick. I mean, I know that sometimes things get out of the bag.
Well, if they want to open themselves up to that, that's the road they choose.
I mean, yes, let's hope that procedures are followed. Let's hope that maybe things have been, maybe misunderstood or characterized in a different way. Maybe that even, for all I know, it's not evidence and the police have returned it back over to the Chiefs because their property. I don't know, but I'm going to ask and see if I can find out. So. Let's see. What do we got? Not really a question, I don't think. Just to make a point. Legion of Zoom 2.0, baby. Is that what the Chiefs are this year, Nick? Are they quite there yet?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see at training camp. Like, I mean, I know that's not the answer everybody wants because they want to know right now in this very moment. But, I mean, until they get out on the field and we start seeing how fast they can go and what they can do against that Chiefs secondary, nobody really knows. We're just going off a whole bunch of 40 times in a straight line.
This is true. Zulu asking, what about Justin Ross, Nick? You were waiting for that, weren't you? You saw that question and you were afraid I was going to bring it up.
No, I already knew. I just expect that to be like a weekly question. Like what about Bob the movie? It's like, what about Justin Ross? Look, I mean, he is definitely on the roster right now. Definitely on the roster. Like, we'll see if he's able to maturate into what they potentially need him to be. But in all honesty, the thing that not a lot of people are talking about, his biggest threat right now is them drafting Jared Wiley. Because if Jared Wiley can take over some of that Jody Fortson stuff that the Chiefs wanted, then guess what? Justin Ross better be able to prove that he can do more than what Rice, Justin Watson, Marquise Brown, and Xavier Worthy can do. And Nico Remigio.
There you go.
Then there's not a role.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me. I mean, there are 4 receivers that are going to make this team. I mean, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson are making this team. So there are 1, 2, or 3 other jobs that might be available on this team. I mean, I would be concerned that the Chiefs might have to keep an extra tight, might be wanting to keep an extra tight end because they've got 4 tight ends that I think that are obviously worthy of roster spots. We'll see what happens, and injuries can affect that too. I think there's questions about the running back position and how many running backs they're going to keep and, whether or not they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster again. So all those could eat into the wide receiver position, which admittedly they kept 7 last year. So it wouldn't be out of the norm for them to keep 7 again. But I mean, it's going to be a competition between, Justin's going to be competing against Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney for those last 2 spots, and Nico Remigio. There's some guys too that they have signed that can absolutely compete for some roster spots. So I don't think there's no necessarily clear path for Justin Ross to make the team. I mean, he's going to have to win a job. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I wanted to bring this up because you and I, Nick, we talked about this because Chris is saying how did Nick miss on C.J. Hansen? No love for Holy Cross football. You didn't miss on C.J. You looked at his stuff and you considered him, and
I didn't have enough though. I just had one game to base it off of, and I didn't have
yeah,
the
it just
East
was.
West Shrine practice from the week
And that's the
before.
hard thing. Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to make a judgment when for some of these players, and that's the tough thing for the Chiefs too. I mean, that's why sometimes they bring in players that you wouldn't expect, and even for 30 visits, because they have a hard enough time getting film on some of these guys. And so maybe they got one game that are like, hey, wait a minute, this guy might be worth something. Let's bring him in. You didn't get a chance to do any 30 visits with the guys, Nick.
No, that's definitely not something that I'm afforded the opportunity to.
I mean, but wouldn't it be awesome if 41 let you bring guys in for 30 visits?
I mean, I don't know if their agents of the Chiefs or NFL would be okay with that, but I mean, I wouldn't complain.
I mean, the NFL, I would think, would have any. I mean, there's nothing really could stop them. I mean, you call up your agent and say, hey, 41's got me a plane ticket for your guy here. If you can come in and do some work for me.
Matt, it is definitely an idea, but I've got enough on my plate as is.
It's definitely an idea. That's a great way of saying that it is not an idea. I appreciate that, Nick. Casey Main.
I never said those words, sir.
You said it in your voice that I love so much that tells me that I've lost my mind. Casey Mango, do you think Xavier Worthy will win Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Absolutely no idea. Let's let the guy learn. Let's let the guy get a playbook and work with Mahomes first, and let him get some months together, and then hope that he can stay. That everybody stays healthy, and that all this can occur. But I am not putting any assumption or any expectation or any pressure on any of those Chiefs rookies right now. They're rookies for a reason. Just as Mark Wahlberg says, I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. So just let him fly right now. Even though peacocks, I don't believe can fly. That's what makes that fun.
I mean, I'm using this as an opportunity to take my shot, Nick. I mean, the tough thing that Xavier is going to face is that, there's 5 quarterbacks in this year's draft that are going to be playing full time that will be tough to overcome for Rookie of the Year. And of course, there's a 6th NFL quarterback who will just be getting donuts for Kirk Cousins. So
that's what you think. You don't know.
No, that's true, because I think there's a better than even chance that Kirk Cousins will say, yeah, I don't want you getting donuts from me.
Oh, I was going to say, because he's coming off an Achilles injury.
That too. But
which is ironic that we're bringing him up, because Kirk Cousins and Joe Tinney share the same agent.
I just wanted to highlight Pano, because Pano said something very nice about us. And Pano, just curious from your name, mentioned in the comments, are you Polly? Because I loved all of the Polynesian draft picks this weekend, and especially the celebration. There's nobody that does a draft pick celebration like the Polynesian players. And we didn't get to see enough of Kingsley's. I would love to see more, but the fact that he had his grandma made the red and gold lays because they knew he was going to the Chiefs was fantastic. So, but appreciate you, Pono, for the kind words. And yes, absolutely. I mean, members and your super chats will always move to the top. Nick, I know you tweeted about this earlier today, so I'll let you start with this one. Would you take a flyer on Zay Jones, who was released today from Jacksonville?
I specifically did that because I knew there was going to be questions, and I'm like, let's get in front of this beforehand. Looking at his games, I mean, look, he had the PCL injury, so I'd be curious if he had surgery on that, or what the extent was that he had that, because he got that against the Chiefs in week 2 this past year. Then for there to be cartilage issues in his right leg, I believe it was what he told the newspaper. And then he had hamstring issues the final couple of weeks. So the game I saw him, it looked like he was playing through the first 2 things I mentioned, or at least one of the things I mentioned, depending on the time of year, which was week 13. Look, I mean, he had some good explosiveness. He was a big body. He looked comfortable in the offense. He understands the Jaguars offense, and he was a good teammate at setting them up on blocks, helping teammates up, helping pull them up, when they're on the ground and everything, and kind of being a leader among the Jaguars receiving group. So in that regard, there was promise. But when I watched his last game from that from that season. You could tell the hamstring was bothering him, and maybe other ailments were bothering him because he didn't have that same explosiveness off the line on his initial release, and his ability to track wasn't as great as it was before. But then also, he didn't have Trevor. I don't think Trevor was throwing at that time. I think it was one of the points. It was the backup quarterback, and it wasn't going well. There was one person was thinking the route's going to go right with the football. The other one's throwing the football left, and just didn't work out for him. But no, I think Zay gives high-end effort. I think Zay could be a quality possession receiver for the Chiefs that can actually get a couple steps if he's healthy. But I don't know what situation he'd be at right now. And now that you've said this, I'm going to go look up and see if they did release him today, if they put him with a failed physical or not, because they probably should if he did.
And I do have it up in front of me and can tell you that if he was on there today, he termination of vested veteran, but no failed physical.
Interesting. So that means the chances of him having surgery then, or he had surgery and it's compliant. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I want to, again, maybe kick the tires on him, but I mean, he is 29. So, and I do like the fact that at least he had a good year for Jacksonville in the Doug Peterson system. So, I mean, that would be at least a good, jumping off point to come to Kansas City. But I mean, once again, you've got a lot of young guys in that room. I don't know if I would want to, clutter's the wrong word, but to just bring in somebody who, especially because you're trying to get Hollywood in too, and figure him in. I mean, I would not necessarily want to be taking a flyer on a player, but then again, I mean, I say that, whereas I would also be willing to take a chance on a 29-year-old Tyler Boyd, but that's because he's not coming off an injury, and your mileage may vary.
Hey Matt, do you have the NFL transaction wire up?
Yes, I do.
Do you? So for people that don't know, we can see specifically what it says for the league. Did you see the headline for the AM one?
I did not.
It says unrestricted free agents not asked to resign. How mean is that? So for that's super mean, dude. So for the Chiefs, it was Blake Bell, Blaine Gabbert, Mecole Hardman, Darius Harris, Richie James, Jerick McKinnon, Donovan Smith, and Prince Tega Winogo. So those were the ones who were technically, according to the sheet by the NFL, unrestricted free agents not asked to resign. So those guys are officially out there in the market. Kareem Hunt's out there. Oh.
And you will not surrender compensation for signing any of these individuals now. So
right. So that means the deadline's probably there. The deadline's probably passed then.
Yes.
With that being in the waiver the way it is.
It is time. So yeah, everybody can go nuts now, signing anybody you want to off the list. Yes, that's a nice way to put it.
That's not to resign.
That's not to resign.
Just put them no longer a part of the comp formula. That's a more professional way, NFL.
We are going to ask you not to resign. So
I'm sorry, but that was just, I hadn't seen that before as a label.
What was it? There was an episode of Psych where there was a teacher of a gentleman's class. Mm-hmm. And at one point, there was a line, "You didn't kick me out. You invited me to leave."
Well, it's not inaccurate. It's certainly a way to frame that.
See, Luttrell did it for me. Okay, what do you think about the Broncos and the Falcons' first-round picks? So
Matt, you go first because you're the one that's going to rant about them.
I know you have a much more reasonable take on both of them. I understand that, Kirk Cousins coming off a torn ACL, that would be a great reason to send a conditional 7th round pick to, I don't know, say the New York Jets for Zach Wilson, or sign Blaine Gabbert, for crying out loud. It's not a reason to use a 1st round pick on a 2nd or 3rd round quarterback that's only been injured 18 times and is 25 years old. And I'm just and not tell the quarterback that you just signed to a $90-odd million guaranteed contract that you're doing. I'm just absolutely baffled. And then it's like, if you're going to take because Michael Penix was going to be available at number 8 under any circumstances. Frankly, the Falcons could have traded back to probably 27 and he still would have been there.
I don't
Okay,
know.
maybe not that far. Maybe not that far.
I don't know. The Raiders may have pounced.
True, because the Raiders are just as dumb as the Falcons, so they might have pounced. But if here's the great thing: had the Falcons traded back to 27, they could have probably gotten a better player than they got with Michael Penix. 2, they probably could have gotten somebody who's going to help them win more games, both now and in the future, than Michael Penix, because Michael Penix might never help them win a game if Kirk Cousins starts for the next 3 years. But they knew this. They knew he was going to be available at 8 when they signed Kirk Cousins. So that was the Falcons' plan, Nick. They signed Kirk Cousins thinking to themselves, the great thing about signing Kirk Cousins to this massive contract is that we're going to be able to draft Michael Penix to be his backup with the number 8 pick in the draft. And then the Broncos, and I appreciate, Sean Payton, is a very good coach. He might have and he obviously he did a great job with the Broncos last year because that's a terrible team, and he turned them into basically a 500 team. That was impressive because the Broncos are terrible. They are years from being able to still compete. They are not one player away. They are not Bo Nix away from catching up with the Kansas City Chiefs. But the fact that Sean Payton had the nerve to say that he felt the same way about Bo Nix coming out of college that he felt about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, not everybody saw Patrick Mahomes coming, I grant you. But correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but Patrick came out after 3 years. He didn't spend like 6 years in college and come out at whatever age that Bo, I can't remember if Bo is 24, getting ready to turn 25, or he's already 25. He's darn close to 25. And I don't remember him ever throwing for 730 yards in a game. I don't remember Bo Nix ever being responsible for like 7 touchdowns in a game. So I could be wrong there, but I just don't remember that. So I yield my remarks with only saying that these two teams got quarterbacks that generously from almost everyone on the planet had second round grades. And that is only considering that this was probably a pretty weak draft class for quarterbacks. I mean, there's years that these guys probably would have been 3rd or 4th round grades. I mean, Bo Nix was not a first round quarterback if he'd come out a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago when they could have been eligible for the draft for the first time. So all of these things, and then both of these teams, mind you, they took the 5th and the 6th best quarterbacks on the board when they could have had the best defensive player on the board at any moment. And the great thing is that both of these teams within the next 2 NFL drafts, I absolutely swear, both of these teams will be drafting another quarterback in the first round. And everyone in those teams are going to be thinking to themselves, you know what? This team would be really good right now if we were getting this quarterback to go with the best defensive player from the 2024 draft. But no, unfortunately, we got this guy who is currently the number 3 quarterback on the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm done.
All right, Matt. Well, Latrell, here's where we're going to start. I'm going to go with the Broncos first. Look, I thank Sean Payton for saying that. That is incredibly.
He was defending his pick. He was being very nice to Bo Nix.
I am very appreciative of Sean Payton saying that, because now that soundbite is going to run each time the Chiefs face the Broncos for the foreseeable future, and Patrick Mahomes will be reminded of it in the press conferences leading up into the Broncos week, because Matt and I are probably going to ask it if somebody else doesn't. So then
he's going to be counting to the number of years that Bo Nix was in college.
So then Vance Joseph, I look forward to the challenge of Patrick Mahomes going against Vance Joseph with the type of speed that he has now and the offensive line that he has. So that'll be interesting to see here coming up here. And on top of it, the Chiefs now know what the Broncos like to run and how they want to go about things, because they got a year to be able to go through it. So now they know what they're putting on the table and what they're going to bring to the table. So thank you, Sean Payton, for giving Patrick Mahomes yet more fuel that he didn't need. So that'll be fun in itself. Now to the Falcons point. Look, at the end of the day, the reason the Falcons were able to make that pick is because of the rookie wage scale. Because if there wasn't a rookie wage scale and it was like, you're drafting, taking, $80 million deal, $100 million deal, $200 million deal because there wasn't a rookie wage, because there wasn't a rookie wage scale. Falcons probably don't make that pick because they don't have the money to get Penix and Kirk Cousins. So they, with the way the system's set up now, they can take their flyer, and every other NFL team can take their flyer, and they can take their chances. So if you do take a quarterback, you're kind of confident in your ability to get a second opportunity to take another quarterback. So right now, quarterbacks are getting drafted earlier than they should most times because they are essentially a lottery ticket, and either it'll hit or it won't hit. But there's not a lot of cost invested in it if it doesn't hit. And what I mean by cost, I mean out of the owner's pocket. So for the most part, that is a saving grace, and that's why these teams made such risky moves that they did, is because the Broncos are probably, well, we're still paying Russell off the cap anyway, so like this will just replace that as if he was here. So look, everybody's gonna take a quarterback. They're gonna reach on quarterbacks. That's just the way things are gonna go in the future, and it'll hit or it'll miss. But it's you need a head coach that's confident enough they're gonna be around past that 3-4 year window.
I mean, and I will gladly eat my hat made out of tacos if Bo Nix becomes a star.
Matt, I believe that would be called a taco sombrero, sir.
Oh, I should have just said that. Yes, I will gladly eat my taco sombrero.
Now I want one.
I mean, I'm sure I can find one. I know there is a taco hat that has a dip thing on top, so you can put guacamole up there and then just pull off a piece of the hat and then dip it in the guacamole.
See, but the problem I have there is that it's got touching hair and stuff. No,
but it's your own hair.
It doesn't matter.
Well, wear a hairnet. No off on the genius switch, Nick.
I'm sorry, germophobia has got the best of me on that
one. I can. All those things are true too. It's just, but that's almost the point. Is that I feel like Sean Payton obviously proved last year that he can go 500-ish with a average or less than average quarterback. So why doesn't he go try and see what he can do with an average quarterback and the best defensive player in the draft? But
well, he needed the average quarterback first. He didn't have it.
He didn't have it last year. Although I'm much more kind to Russell than Wilson than other people are. But I think he has more in the tank than people think, but maybe not much more. So I know we need to get lightning round, Nick, because it is lightning outside and time to wrap up. But this might be a great question for you, because I did ask, to kind of get an idea, how the Chiefs are going to be using these guys. But what sort of passing game do you see moving forward with Hollywood and Worthy? Chiefs will move these guys around, but pretty clear. I mean, Hollywood's going to be the X, Worthy's going to be the Z, which means he's going to be the guy that you maybe move around a little bit. You can put in motion. He's going to be the guy in the backfield. Be interesting to see how he's able to. He played that role obviously well in college, although he played every single spot. That would leave Rashod as a slot guy. Not that, I mean, once again, they're all three going to play all three spots, but how do you see those two in particular kind of playing off each other?
Well, I mean, more than anything, you're gonna have to expect them to keep two safeties high. That's gonna be the first part of it. So you're gonna try. So what Andy Reid and them are gonna try to work when they're trying to push it deep is to try to either use Kelsey or use one of the other receivers to really occupy those safeties if they can. And then they're going to run some combination routes off that and try to see if they can push. Because there's going to be a point there's going to be something at one time where you're going to use like a corner route with a vertical route inside of it, to where, hey, you either have to take Travis Kelsey or whoever receiver wise on this corner route in a delay. So you delay the vertical, but you have the corner route towards the outside. You pull that safety. Then you have another one on the opposite side, and you figure out a way to hold that safety, whether it's through a vertical or something else. And then, hey, one of the two is wide open down the middle for a touchdown because the corner's in trail because they can't keep up with them, and they maybe have gone through traffic, depending on how the Chiefs did it. And, hey, there's a wide open touchdown for Worthy or whoever. But, I mean, it's just all those little nuances that you're going to put together, is whether it's deep crossing routes or a combination of the scissors type of concept with it, to where maybe you utilize that to be able to manipulate off one safety while you hold the other safety. Or or maybe you work underneath on a regular basis and try to get those safeties to creep up a little bit, whether it's through the run game, screen game, whatever you may do, or use crossing routes. It just gives the Chiefs, as I said on the podcast, it gives the Chiefs so much more room for activities, like stepbrothers. So that's just what the reality of that's going to be, is like the Chiefs have a lot more of the playbook open to be able to take advantage of and really kind of dictate what defenses have to cover and how they have to cover it and manipulate off that.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a new dynamic, because you think about, last year, how many, zero and cover one defenses that the Chiefs saw. That was an adjustment that the league made last year, and the Chiefs had trouble dealing with it. And a big reason why is because they did not have multiple deep down the field threats. Now they do. So there's going to have to be a counterpunch. We'll see. I mean, if the Chiefs come out of the box, facing similar defenses that they did last year, and they're beating them, I mean, you're going to see another adjustment. So and that's the chess game of the NFL. It's going to be up to the Chiefs to make it work. But if this works the way they've got it on paper, I mean, I think NFL defenses are going to have to figure out how to stop the Chiefs again. But all right, lightning round, Nick. So we'll go with our quick answers. Mm-hmm. Dr. Ozzy, do you think Hicks beats out Bush for the fourth safety spot on the roster? What does that signal for how they view Connor? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's going to be the fourth safety. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I don't think it changes the view about Connor. I think he's going to be used in probably a similar role this year, if not a bigger, more expanded role than he was last year. And you draft Hicks because Justin Reed's a free agent next year. And if those are your top three safeties next year in 2025, Chiefs are in good shape.
I don't know how many times I can say this.
How many times can you say it?
I don't know how many times, but I got a feeling I'm going to keep having to say it.
Do it.
Jamari Connor was drafted to replace L'Jarius Sneed. That was what he was drafted for last year. And oh, hey, look, weird. They traded him away, and now Connor did some of the stuff that he did last year. Because if you look at the trajectory of what's happened, some of the stuff Sneed did early on in his career, they had Jamari do last year. And then they're slowly implementing him in different pieces in different ways to what Sneed did and developing and building him up. So when people say who's going to replace Sneed, nobody's going to replace what Sneed did last year. Nobody's going to. But what they are slowly doing is they're building up Jamari Connor to maybe be in that ballpark down the road if he has that ability. So in terms of safeties, this is how I want you to think about it. Brian Cook is your free safety. Behind him, Connor has the range. Hicks potentially has the range. Then you have Justin Reed, who's the strong safety. And then behind Justin Reed is Hicks. So Hicks has the versatility where he can play twofold, and Connor can go down as a cornerback if he needs to, slot, nickel, whatever you want to use. And then Najee Johnson, who has experience at safety, can do versatility for both. So that's why Najee Johnson and Jamari Connor you could consider both safety / corner, and that's why they're going to be on the roster, because they're Swiss Army knives. So, I mean, Bush is here for special teams. That's what he is. That's what he does. That's who he is. And he made a big interception in that Chiefs-Ravens AFC Championship game. But Bush can go on practice squad like he did last year. And if they need to bring him up because of injury, he knows the playbook, all that type of stuff, that's what they can easily do with him.
Would you be stunned? Because I've been thinking about it. Would you be stunned if they moved Jamari Connor from safety room to the cornerback room?
No, wouldn't be in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not sure I would be surprised either. I mean, especially just the way that he was deployed last year. I mean, he certainly played plenty of safety, but I mean, he was a nickel corner for all intents and purposes. Mm-hmm. So would not surprise me. All right, lightning round. Where are we going next? Because I know it was like a little while, and a lot of people were asking for my my Falcons and Broncos rant, Nick. So I'm very, very popular for my. We'll get to that one, but here's the next one first, because we have not been asked about the stadium tonight. How likely do you think it is that the Chiefs move to Kansas? A whole lot more likely than it was a couple of weeks ago. A whole lot more likely than it was Friday, even Saturday when we heard from Brett Veach, because Kansas is coming for these two teams. And honestly, I mean, Missouri is in neutral. I don't even know if the state of Missouri, anybody in the state of Missouri is even lifting a finger right now to try and keep the Chiefs in Missouri. And Kansas is well on their way to having a very, very impressive offer for probably both of these teams across the state line, Nick.
We'll see how things start developing here in the months ahead as the Arrowhead turns. But I mean, look, Kansas is starting to make their play right now, and as you said, Clark Hunt spoke on Saturday about it and left a lot of doors open. If people want to come walk through, he's got some appetizers laid out here. If you want to join the party, these are you got some pigs in a blanket for you, or something else. That maybe something fancier appetizer wise. I don't know, but Clark basically put it out there, like, they're open for business to be able to come chat with them. So we'll see what Kansas does, and then we'll see if Missouri's willing to match that in any way, shape, or form, or if Kansas City can come up with something, because I know Quentin Lucas went to social media last night to chat about it. So we'll see what ends up happening. But, I mean, my biggest thing is, as long as they stay in the region, that is the main thing that I personally care about. But for Jackson County, I don't know the numbers. I don't know. And I'm curious about is if all those players who play in the state of Jackson County, what does that do for them? What do they lose tax revenue wise from everybody being in Jackson County? That's the biggest question that I have. And that's the one that I'm very intrigued by, what impact that would actually have if Jackson County lost that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's something also to consider too, which is that, if I'm not mistaken, my understanding is that the city of Kansas City, with their earnings tax, it's close to $10 million a year that they collect in earnings tax just off of professional football, because they collect that 1% every time that the Chiefs play anywhere. And for those players that live in Kansas City, Missouri, whether they're playing at Arrowhead or they're playing on the road, if they live in Kansas City, Missouri, they're paying that 1% earnings tax. Players who come in to play at Arrowhead are paying that 1% earnings tax. So anybody, and the
concerts, Monster Jams,
the concerts, they collect all that stuff. So yeah, and then, I mean, to me, here's the fear for Kansas City and Jackson County losing the Chiefs in particular, because I think that, I mean, it's a foregone conclusion, regardless of whether they cross the state line or not. The Royals are not going to be continuing at the Truman Sports Complex. If the Chiefs leave the Truman Sports Complex, you have a bird parking lot. I mean, there's not going to be anything in that area. I mean, and you think it's hard to develop right now around 435 and I-70. Take out the stadiums and leave two giant concrete bird ponds. I mean, that is going to be, for those of us who lived in Kansas City a long time, I mean, the riverfront where development is finally taking place, where the current stadium is going, and now they're talking about having an $800 million project going in and more development, in addition to all the other housing that's going on there. The riverfront was a vacant dump for 40 years. If the Chiefs leave the Truman Sports Complex is probably going to be an empty dump for 40 years, an eyesore on the community. And I told a friend of this earlier today because it was kind of provoked out of me. So here's my analogy, Nick. It's that teams are like players. You cannot let franchises test free agency, because the moment that you let them test free agency, they're gone. If Chris Jones had tested free agency in March, if the Chiefs hadn't gotten the deal done with him before the beginning of free agency, Chris Jones was not coming back to Kansas City, because somebody else was going to give him a better deal. The Chiefs and the Royals are free agents right now. And now that they've gotten the chase of free agency, I can't see them, either one of them, staying, because they're going to get too good of an offer to go on the Kansas side. And Missouri right now cannot offer them what Kansas can. So, I mean, Missouri's got a lot of work. I mean, they need to pass sports gambling, make it legal if they want to keep both these teams. I mean, that's bare minimum. And then they probably need some of the development tools, because those star bonds that Kansas has are very, very powerful. I mean, that's why I allowed them to get the racetrack out there. It's allowed them to do so many things out at the Legends. So it's allowed them to build the sporting stadium. So to me, and I say this not as a fan of either team, I say this as a voter in Missouri, I'm just pretty disappointed that the people in the state of Missouri, all the way down to the local officials, did not jump at when they had the chance. I mean, they should have been working the moment after that sales tax on Plan B. And there is absolutely no urgency whatsoever. And now that I've brought a complete end to lightning round, let's get back to lightning round.
I think you only got one question left at this
I was going
point.
to say, I thought it might be two, because what was the other one? Oh, Justin, because I'm pretty sure Justin is a burner account for someone in the Chiefs front office. And I mean that complimentary, Justin, because you're still saying you still have hope for Tony to turn it all around. Am I crazy? If you are crazy, then everyone in the Chiefs front office is crazy, because all of them believe that Kadarius Toney can turn it around, that he can tap into that talent and make it work. Question is, Nick, to you.
I don't know if he's ever going to be healthy for long enough times to be able to turn it into anything of substance. So at this point, I'm just this is just me personally. Like if I'm in the organization's shoes, I'm just doing everything I can to showcase him in preseason, so you can get a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick for 2025, and then move forward on that one. Same thing with Sky Moore. Like just go ahead and showcase him. Try to see if a team wants to offer something up for either one of them. Hope, cross your fingers that Tony can stay healthy and doesn't get hurt on the first day of training camp and is gone for the rest of training camp. And then shows back up week 1. You're hoping that isn't the case. And, we'll see. But no, I mean, you can't keep having the same things happen over and over again and tell me this time is going to be different. Sometimes at some point, some things are just etched in stone.
This is not a question, Nick, but a comment from Luttrell, and I think it's an interesting idea, because I want to know if we could get the Chiefs to give you a per diem, Nick, and then put you up in a hotel, could you just watch film for them all day?
First off, I have a job right now with health insurance that I'm very appreciative of. I have no comments on any of this hypothetical situation.
So I'm hearing there's a chance.
I have already made my statement, and thank you for your time. Next question.
Dez, one of our, once again, great members here. Do they give the rookies the playbook before a rookie minicamp, like when Worthy came to visit? I got to admit, I mean, I'm assuming that they don't. I'm assuming that for the most part, the rookies, their first look at the playbook is probably when they get to town. And even for a rookie minicamp, I mean, I think the guys who are signed may get the playbook, but the tryout guys and all those folks probably for the most part just get a streamlined rookie minicamp version, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I think during rookie camp, they're probably just here's a handful of players we're going to work on over the next 2 days, kind of see what you guys are capable of, and then just go from there and kind of see if you can fit what we're trying to do. And you give them the most generic, basic stuff. But then after rookie camp's over, if I'm in their shoes, I don't know this to be fact, but if I'm in their shoes, I do that. And then once rookie camp's officially done, the guys who you did draft and own the rights to and undrafted free agents, yeah, you give them what they need to and say, hey, you got 3 weeks to kind of look over this stuff before, we do everything with the veterans there at the end of May after Memorial Day or around that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the playbook that they run for rookie minicamp, it's not complicated. I mean, it's basically Andy Reid bread and butter stuff. It's old plays. It's probably some just basic stuff that they ran last year. They'll do the run through in the morning, just like a regular NFL practice. They'll teach them the guys the stuff in the practice room and go over it. They'll show them some films of the plays that I'm sure run in the past. What it looks like. I mean, yeah. So there's nothing install-esque. I mean, there's nothing new for 2024 that the rookies are going to be running. I mean, they're just going to be running some old basic stuff to, honestly, one, kind of get the players that are new to the team in shape, and two, just figure out what everybody can do and if they can actually play in the NFL. So it's nothing too complicated, but it is. I mean, it's fun to watch. And you're right. I mean, generally, one thing that you can tell is just whether or not these guys are faster than some other guys, but some cream will rise at the rookie minicamp. I mean, there will be people who perform well that you absolutely can tell from miles away. Luttrell, what do you think the Chiefs' record will be this year against the AFC West?
I don't know. We'll see when the schedule comes out. if they're on the road 3 consecutive weeks, like it's one on a Thursday, it's one on a different time, like all that type of stuff. Like we'll see how the NFL stacks the deck against the Chiefs and go from there.
I guess I should hedge my bet a little bit, because yes, if the Chiefs have to go to like the Chargers on a short week on a Thursday night, after a Sunday night game against Buffalo, then yeah, that could be a problem. Tommy is fully on board with the taco sombrero, so we've got something here.
I'm not gonna partake in it, but I appreciate the idea.
If there is not a taco sombrero, I need to find somebody to make a taco sombrero.
That's gonna be tough, man.
I have not seen this, Nick. Have you seen renderings that have dropped for potential Chiefs and KCK? No. I mean, these would just be for fun because they would not have official drawings with the team involved and everything like that. But Luttrell says that was Luttrell's favorite Matt rant of the night, Nick. So I feel justified.
Good job, Matt.
Thank
That's all
you.
I got for you at this point.
I think we've run through the questions for tonight. There was a couple I skipped over that I know we answered earlier. So if we did not answer your question, pretty good chance. Justin wants to point out that this is not a burner. He's a real boy. I knew you were real, Justin. I knew it was not your burner, but I mean, the fact
that's what a burner account would tell you, man.
It is actually what a burner account would say. That's true. But when I have literally asked people in the front office, one-on-one conversations, about Kadarius Toney, I have literally gotten exactly what you said, Justin, which is that we still believe in him. We still believe that he can get it done here. So no, you're not crazy. And if you're crazy, Brett Veach is crazy. So, and everybody who works for him is crazy. I mean, there's probably somebody in the front office, Nick, that thinks that the Kadarius Toney experiment is ludicrous and should be over with, but they would never say that. But even privately,
job, yeah,
you want to keep your job. You say your piece and then you buy into whatever Brett says. So that's the way it goes. I say that facetiously and with love. Nick, thank you very much as always for coming on in.
Hey, it was a pleasure, man.
Appreciate you.
Pleasure, but I'm going to play a game called Not Be Here. I hope I win. I hope I win.
Well, thanks everyone for his last appearance here on the Q&A after I have driven him away with my nonsense. So,
oh wow, okay.
I know you would never leave me, Nick. I don't think you would.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out next Tuesday. Cliffhanger.
No, Nick, don't leave me.
Oh no, I'm going through a tunnel right now. Oh no.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Q&A. We will be back with 41 is the mic on Sunday, and unless there's anything else that promises to have to do an emergency podcast, which I really kind of hope that there is, but Sunday we'll be able to recap and talk about what happened at rookie minicamp over the weekend and anything that stood out to us, and then of course next week back on the Q&A on Tuesday. So appreciate y'all sticking around for hour and 15 minutes of tonight's discussion. I hope we didn't bore you too much. Listen to it on 2.0 speed to catch it all up and everything. Appreciate you all very much. Hit the button to like, pound it, I guess I'm supposed to say, all those things. I'm still hoping I will stop, begging for people to subscribe to Chiefs Digest on YouTube once we hit 5,000, just because it's a nice round number. I will not start begging again until we hit 10,000. So this is your opportunity to subscribe, encourage other people to subscribe. Appreciate all the support, all the kind words, and absolutely all the support this last week. We had our best week ever on the podcast, with all the shows that we had, with the draft, with Michael Lombardi, with Jim Nagy, and all the draft picks over the weekend. You are all wonderful. I appreciate all the support. You are all the best. No one's any better than the Chiefs Digest fans here on YouTube and over at the website. So thank you all so much. Wish you all the best. Have a great week, and we will see you on Sunday for